think we're up and running here. A little rocky the day after the 4th of July, but I think we're connected to Japan. This is going to be interesting. An awful lot of emails have been coming in about the story by Dr. Henry Mako, Ph.D., called Chinese Secret Society Challenges Illuminati. This is a very interesting story, something the likes of which I have not seen in all the years of doing this program or website. The author is Benjamin Fulford of the author quoted in the story. He's an American, North American, Canadian to be specific, expatriate living in Japan now. And let's just bring him on and say hello and see how he's doing and check this connection out. Are you there, Ben?
Yeah, I'm here.
Good. We got a little bit of a delay.
It's a cell phone, so the reception's not so good. But...
Well, you sound all right.
Okay.
There's a bit of a delay, so we'll have to deal with that. A lot of people have been asking me, could this be real? Is this a hoax? Is it a joke? What is it? We're going to find out much more about this story, so stay with us tonight as we continue our conversation with Benjamin Fulford. He is the former Asian Pacific Bureau Chief for Forbes magazine, and he quit in disgust when Forbes refused to run a damaging story about one of its advertisers. And boy, I know that game, and many of us in the media do, who try to tell as close to the truth as we can without losing our jobs. In this case, Ben did eventually lose his job because Forbes wouldn't back him. It's a story I've heard before. Speaks of a very principled man, a reporter, a journalist, in the best tradition. And let's find out from Ben exactly what happened. First of all, Ben, when were you named Asian Bureau Chief for Forbes, and what was your background before that, if you would?
Okay, I've been a journalist in Japan for about 20 years, and I was Bureau Chief for Forbes from about 1998 to 2004, beginning 2005.
That's a good long stretch, yeah.
All sorts of different, publications.
Okay. Your relationship with Forbes up until the time when you decided you had to part ways with them was how? You were there for almost 8 years, I guess.
Well, no, it started out as a really cushy job, and they let me investigate a lot of stuff about Japanese organized crime and the senior side of things in Japan. However, at a certain point, I seemed to be getting too close to something they didn't want me to get to, and they started stopping stories. There was a corruption story about GE that didn't make it, another one about Citibank that didn't make it. And then when I finally found out this an antivirus software company was actually making viruses, that was it.
Yeah. Well,
that was the last straw for me.
They do that, I've heard, and why not? It's like some cases, once in a while you hear about firemen actually starting fires. I don't know. It's bizarre, but that's what software companies that are in the antivirus protection business are accused of doing from time to time, if not directly, indirectly, and it wouldn't surprise me. When did you learn to speak Japanese?
Well, I went to university in Japan. So I came here when I was 19, and I've been here more than 20 years, so I guess I learned early on.
Did it come easy to you?
Well, it's a very difficult language, not grammatically, but because you have to grasp a whole new way of thinking. You have to understand that Asian culture and Western culture parted ways about 40,000 years ago. So that means there's 40,000 years of folk wisdom you have to catch up with to really understand what's going on, and that's very, very difficult.
You mean 4,000 instead of 40,000? There was nobody around back then, supposedly, but...
Well, what I mean is the genetic tests show that's when we separated our, the Orientals and the Caucasians.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, with respect to the Asian mind, Western minds, meaning the American mind in particular, we'll just keep it to North America here, America, Canada, are not basically understood. And I predicate that statement on not having been there, not having any experience, but having talked to the former Time Bureau Chief for Beijing on the program some years ago. He said, when I asked him what the Asian mind thought about American Western diplomacy in China specifically, he laughed. And he said they consider Americans to be but children in the sandbox. That's the gulf we're talking about here. Now, would that remark ring fairly true to you in any way?
Well, yes, in part, but I think another way they look at it as they look at Western society as a slave society.
A what? A slave society?
A slave society.
Well, indeed it is. Go ahead.
Yes, controlled in secret by a group of, very sophisticated slave drivers.
Well, we call them Illuminati, we call them Bilderbergers, CFR, Trilateral Commission, we can throw in Skull and Bones, the Club of Rome, the Fabian Society, all kinds of secret cartels, cabals, and groups. But at the top, it's a fairly singular power source, and it is certainly one of slave owner to slaves. And certainly the encumbering of the slaves is becoming ever more adroit with each passing month, it seems, with technology and politics changing so quickly over here. The view from Japan of North America, let's talk about the United States. How is it for you, an expatriate from Canada?
What, living in Japan, you mean?
Yeah, what's it look like over there? What we're doing over here, and I mean we with President Bush, Vice President Cheney, of course, enjoying the lowest ratings probably in presidential and vice presidential history. The American polls show the respect for the U.S. Congress of virtually around 14-15% in terms of job satisfaction. So tell me more.
Yeah, no, it looks like maybe Russia did just before the Iron Curtain fell. It looks like a huge sea change is about to happen. Like, the biggest thing since the Declaration of Independence, I think.
Well, almost the antithesis of that, and I can see how that would be a view from over there, and it's probably far more loaded with merit than we'd all like to agree. Things are happening over here, as I think you well know, at a very rapid pace now. And the controllers are literally pushing things in the American public's face that are so unconstitutional and illegal as to be laughable if they weren't so tragic.
Yeah, I think these people are scared, and they're trying to carry out a plan. They're desperate now, but their plan is so horrendous and so bizarre, it's just that it provoked a split even within their ranks.
I've heard talk of factions. You mentioned the word, they are desperate, keyword being desperate. There are others who have said the same kind of thing, that they sense there is a window through which they must move now if they're ever going to move. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. Yes. What happened, let me tell you something. I was offered the job of finance minister of Japan by the Freemasons.
When?
Okay?
When?
I got to David Rockefeller. I actually was able to link him to some murders of bankers and other people in Japan as a part of his effort to take over the Japanese financial system. And when I confronted the former Japanese finance minister, Heizo Takanaka, with this, he sent a ninja, believe it or not, a real-life ninja, who offered me a gold Freemason badge and told me I could either accept a job of great power or be killed. At first, I thought I had no choice. I had to go along, which is what happens to a lot of people when they get pulled into this. But then the Chinese secret society showed up and offered me protection. And that's why I can now talk about this. And I want to tell you, because I got right inside, right at the very top. Now, anybody up to a 33-degree Freemason is a chump. They think they're doing good for humankind and they're doing God's work. There are 13 degrees above the 33rd degree.
So I've heard.
And the first thing they learn is that there is no God. We are God. This is what they're taught.
Mm-hmm.
And they are, believe it or not, they're the descendants of Babylonian tyrants. This goes back almost 6,000 years. It's ancient Babylonian slave driving technology. They use a combination of bribes, murder, ostracism, mind control, whatever. They have a huge arsenal. They think very, very long term.
Mm-hmm.
And the story I figured out now is that when they started with Zionism, they had this plan to actually make a